What if success didn't need a spotlight? What if the most accomplished people in the world didn't need to announce it? In Denmark, they don't. Hi, I'm Elle, a senior data scientist, and I've spent nearly a decade living across two cultures, 5 years in Denmark and the last 4.5 in the UK. That gives you a front row seat to some pretty interesting contrasts, and today we're diving into one of the most fascinating ones. Because if you've ever lived in Denmark, one thing becomes pretty obvious very quickly. People don't brag at all. And if you're from a culture where success is something you shout from the rooftops, or at least quietly suggest in a LinkedIn post, you might find this silence puzzling. But as I learned over time, there's a deep logic behind the Danish discomfort with self-promotion, and it's one that raises some powerful questions about how we define success. Before we jump in, if this kind of content resonates with you, thoughtful, slightly weird, but grounded in real things, hit subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and if you'd like to support it more directly, there's a few ways listed in the description. Let's dive in. Let me take you back to one of my first team meetings in Copenhagen. We were wrapping up a major project, something that honestly had been a bit of a beast to complete, and one of the junior analysts had basically carried the whole thing to the finish line. So naturally, I expected some kind of recognition, a shout out at least, but instead, nothing. Not even a humble thanks to Lars for working 80 hours last week and saving the entire timeline, just silence. And Lars? He didn't mention it either. He smiled, nodded, and went back to sipping his lukewarm filter coffee. Poor guy. That's when someone told me about the Janteloven, the law of Jante. It's not an actual legal code, it's not a law, but more of a cultural code. A kind of invisible agreement about how to behave, basically. One of its most famous lines is, "You're not to think you're anyone special, even when you are objectively special," like Lars was. And no, this isn't about low self-esteem. Danish people aren't walking around with imposter syndrome. At least I hope not. It's about collective equality, about blending in rather than standing out, because in Denmark, standing out is often seen as a disruption to social harmony. Now let's contrast this with how things work in, say, the UK or the US. In the UK, my current home, modesty still exists, sure, but there is also an expectation that you'll advocate for yourself, sell yourself. You'll let people know what you've done, especially if you want to get ahead. In the US, we've taken self-promotion and made it into an art form, basically. Think about the job interviews, CVs, networking events. Success isn't just about what you've done, it's about how convincingly you can talk about it. Social media is another beast entirely. We're trained to present a curated version of our lives, achievements front and center, filtered and hashtagged to perfection. In these cultures, bragging is often equated with confidence, not arrogance. If you don't sell yourself, you risk being overlooked. So why do Danes avoid it? The answer lies in what Danish culture values most: equality and trust. This isn't just theoretical either. Denmark consistently ranks among the world's most egalitarian societies. There is a deeply rooted belief that no one is inherently better than anyone else. Not because we're all the same, but because we all deserve the same respect. And in that context, bragging feels like a betrayal of the group. It disrupts the balance. If I talk about how great I am, someone else might feel less than, and that's just not okay. You see this ethos everywhere. In dress, for example, you won't find many people flaunting designer logos in Copenhagen. Luxury cars, far less common than you think, especially for people who could afford them. Because success in the Danish mindset is not about showing off, it's about contributing, fitting in, and maintaining harmony at the same time. But don't be fooled, Danes do signal success. They just do it more quietly than in other countries. Take homes, for example. You might walk into a Danish flat and find minimalist furniture that costs more than your entire student loan. Think high-quality materials, clean design, no unnecessary ornamentation. Or bikes. Danes love their bikes, but not just any bikes. A sleek, beautifully engineered city bike says far more than any Porsche ever could in Copenhagen. Even tech, the latest iPhone, sure, but you won't see it flashed around. It'll be used practically, maybe even with a slightly cracked screen, because the point isn't to impress you, it's to live well. More than anything, Danish success is measured in balance. Do you have time with your family? Are you able to leave work at 4 p.m. and go pick up your kids? Are you trusted enough in your job that no one micromanages you? That is success. Not the trophy, not the Porsche, the trust. And when someone does get ahead, it's often acknowledged in subtle social ways. Being invited to certain dinner parties or simply being known in the right circles. No announcement needed. Now, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the hidden layers of culture and success, and you're curious about how different values shape our lives, don't forget to subscribe. I explore topics like this regularly through the lens of someone who's lived across countries, navigated careers in Europe, and still gets confused about which side of the road to walk on. Hit that button, let's keep the conversation going. Moving on, what all this reveals is something something quite profound. Success doesn't need to be loud. In Denmark, success isn't applause. It's stability, contentment, and contribution. It's a model that doesn't require constant performance. And that's a stark contrast to cultures where visibility is often equated with value. Which raises the question, is our model of success performative? Are we chasing achievement for the joy of it or for the recognition? Would we still want that promotion, that new house, that book deal, that skyscraper if no one ever knew about it? The Danish model suggests a radical alternative. What if success is something you feel, not necessarily something you show? So what can we learn from all of this? There's basically a lot that we can take. For one, humility doesn't mean invisibility. You can be accomplished without shouting it from the rooftops. And maybe, just maybe, success without spectacle leads to more peace of mind, less pressure, less anxiety, less burnout from trying to live up to a performance. In a world that's constantly broadcasting, the Danish approach can feel revolutionary. It's a quiet rebellion, a refusal to equate worth with attention. And it leaves us with a powerful question. Do I want to succeed, or do I want to be seen succeeding? To recap, Denmark doesn't hate success, it just defines it differently. In a place governed by Janteloven, where equality and trust trump ego and exhibitionism, you learn that being special doesn't mean acting like it. It means contributing, showing up, and living well without needing everyone to know. And maybe there's something we can all reflect on. So here's my question to you. Would you still chase your goals if no one ever knew you achieved them? Let me know in the comments how success is perceived in your culture. Do people embrace the spotlight, or is it more about quiet achievement? Thanks for watching. Subscribe, support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!